If all the members will please take their seats. Please log in to the voting system. We will start with Zachary, I guess. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Tuesday, April the 8th, 2025. I hereby call State and Local Government Committee to order. Madam Clerk, will you please open the board for roll call? Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change the vote? Madam Clerk, close the board. You got it.
Mr. Chair, you have 19 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Does any of the members have any personal orders or announcements? The chairman will take privilege here. I have my lovely wife, Leanne, who's here with us today. Please stand up, dear. And she has brought a group of East Tennessee GOP members in our area. Please stand up, guys. Is there any more announcements or personal orders? All right, we'll move on. Today we got 58 bills on the regular calendar and 25 bills on the consent calendar. We'll take up the consent calendar first. Members, we have had objection to House Bill 1423 and House Bill 318. Without objection, they'll be taken off the consent calendar and put to the heel of the regular calendar. Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have House Bill 1434. I have objection to. Item number 17.
All right, we have an objection to House Bill 1434. Without objection, it'll be taken off the consent calendar and put on the heel of the regular calendar. Chairman Moon, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move passage of this consent calendar.
You've heard the motion. We've got a second. Any discussion on the consent calendar? Any objection to the consent calendar? We're ready to vote on the consent calendar that was published and the bill numbers that was read off last week. All those in favor of the consent calendar, please vote aye on the board or no on the board. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 19 ayes, 0 nay, and 2 present not voting.
Consent calendar is passed. Will it go on the calendar rules? The consent calendar bills will be passed on to calendar and rules. We will now start with our regular calendar. I will be jumping around. Apologize to the guests in the audience. Please try to follow along, but I will start with our leadership, full committee chairs, and then we'll start with the regular calendar. So the first person we're going to take up is item number 1, and that is Deputy Speaker Zachary. Got a proper motion and second. Speaker Zachary, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Members, this bill works to prevent local governments from enacting policies that conflict with Tennessee state law or our Constitution, ensuring consistency and legal integrity across the state. The bill ensures accountability that state funds are not used to support unlawful policies, reinforcing uniformity and responsible government throughout Tennessee. Rather than allowing unconstitutional local policies to stand until challenged through expensive lawsuits, this bill provides a proactive mechanism to identify and resolve those violations early. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Chairman Moon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there amendment on this bill, sir?
There is. Let me see.
6481.
I do not see an amendment, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just for clarification, Chairman Moon, that is traveling with the bill. So, all right. Representative Mitchell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, sponsor, could you give me an example of something that's happened that would necessitate us passing this?
Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sure. The most recent example I can think of is when Memphis moved forward with gun referendums on the ballot. It created confusion, it was costly, and it was unnecessary. And so the Attorney General chose not to engage in that, but that would just be one example. We've already passed a bill addressing this, but entities that tried to put forth sanctuary city policies, that would apply to this. We've already taken some action related to those, but those type of things would be examples.
Representative Mitchell for follow-up.
Well, no, I'm just concerned because, I know Nashville, we've had to go to court several times, and I think we're still undefeated. So I was just making sure it wasn't anything in reference to Nashville.
Representative Dixie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, this bill will give the AG power to investigate or bring charges against anybody that he wants in local government across the state. Is that what this bill does?
Deputy Speaker.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my understanding he already has those powers anyway. This provides a specific avenue and path for the Attorney General and reporter if action is reported to them that would deem to violate state law or constitution. It provides them a path to engage. It then gives the local entity 60 days to resolve that. And then if that's not resolved, then court action would take place and then funds could be withheld. So it's a process that they go through that is not specifically laid out today. But I think what you're describing, they already have that power today. He already has that power today.
Representative Dixie for follow-up.
No, that's fine. That's
All right.
my
Any other questions for the sponsor? Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You used Memphis as an example. Could you repeat that and that example?
Deputy Speaker, you're
Thank you, Mr.
recognized.
Chairman. Yes, sir, Representative Miller. So I was just asked for an example, and the most recent that comes to mind is when Memphis moved forward with a gun referendum, and it looked to pass policies on the ballot and put those before the people that would actually violate state law. The Attorney General put out a very strong statement related to that. And again, that was just provided as an example that could have been stopped beforehand if the Attorney General had this path and engaged with them proactively, could have stopped, which created such confusion among people in Shelby County. And again, it would have saved significant tax dollars because obviously that was a tax burden of the people of the county.
Representative Miller.
So
Follow-up.
you do know that resolution was non-binding. It wasn't enforceable. It was pretty much a statement that the citizens of Memphis was making. It was basically a statement. So now you want to go after punitive damages based on that?
Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Miller, that was just an example I provided. We're not litigating anything within Shelby County or the actions they take to maybe circumvent the law or violate state law. We're not litigating that here. I was asked for an example. This bill is related to the reporter and the Attorney General being able to take proactive measures to stop any act by any municipality that would deem to violate state law or the Constitution. Gives them a proactive way to be able to do that. I mean, in terms of the specific example, I was just providing an example.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 1097. Moving on to calendar and rules. All in favor, vote yes on the board or no on the board. Madam Clerk, open the board. Has every member voted? Not yet. Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board, announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 17 ayes, 6 nays.
Bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee.
We're now going to House Bill 726 by Chairman Hicks. We got a proper motion and second on the bill. I do see it has an amendment. Can you please give us your drafting code?
Yes, sir. 6337.
Do I have a motion? Proper motion in second. Would you like us to place the amendment on the bill for discussion?
Please, it does make the bill.
Without objection, we're ready to vote on amendment number 63337 going on to House Bill 726. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. You're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, House Bill 726 as amended. This is a cleanup bill. This bill will ensure that all taxpayers who were impacted by the Hurricane Helene that will be eligible for the relief that we passed for them during the special session, and that these folks will receive relief. As you recall, we created an ad valorem grant based on 130% off the property assessor's value for impacted properties. Based on our original bill we passed during session, we thought we had identified all the properties that had been affected. However, since then, we have discovered that there are some additional properties that were not identified. And so the bill originally had a deadline of January the 28th for the assessor, for our property assessors to identify the affected properties. All the parameters from the original bill will be kept in place, except the deadline will be extended out until April the 15th, so that the property assessors can identify any missing properties. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Is there any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 726. Moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. I think you know the chairman there. All those in favor, please vote yes on the board or no on the board. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board, announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 23 ayes, 0 nays.
Chairman Hicks, your bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee.
We're going to jump to item 57, House Joint Resolution 318 by Chairman Faison and Chairman Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members.
Do I have a motion on the bill? Proper motion and second. You're recognized.
Thank you, House Joint Resolution 318. We are making an attempt, joint effort to put up a plaque at the Motlow Turn, the entrance of the tunnel there going in after the rebuilding of the Capitol. We want to highlight and honor all of the people who had a part in building the Capitol, including the slaves and all of those that were involved, is the purpose of House Joint Resolution 318. And I'd like to give recognition to my co-sponsor for some words, if he may.
Chairman Faison, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Committee, there's also an amendment to the bill, the urgent resolution. Is that traveling with it, Mr. Chairman?
It is.
7037?
It is.
Just making sure. Real briefly, a while back, I was in DC and did a tour of the Capitol and saw that they had named the entrance to the Capitol and brought the history to light of the people who built our U.S. Capitol. That was in January, and I got back and I started working on the notion of everybody who built this Capitol. And we garnered support from state historians to local universities, and we've been able to identify just about everybody we think who's built the Capitol. This is an urgent resolution to the governor and to the Capitol Commission to honor them and name it Gateway Heritage as you come in, the new entrance that has been built. I think this is a great thing. I want my children to know. I've done lots of tours of our Capitol, and nobody has ever talked to me about all the people who built it. If you read that resolution, it will bless you to see what all took place. And I feel this is something that our generations come behind us need to know. That's what we're doing.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsors? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote on House Joint Resolution 318. Moving on to calendar rules. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 23 ayes, 0 nays.
Gentlemen, your all's bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the list will be number 5. This is House Joint Resolution 0146 by Chairman Farmer. I'm sorry, I got the wrong bill. House Bill 1128 by Chairman Farmer. Do I have a motion? Proper motion and second. I do see we have some amendments on it. Would you like to give us the drafting code you'd like to run?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if we could do, if we could put 6212 on, it'd be great.
62112. We got a proper motion and second. Would you like us to place it on the bill for discussion?
It does, it rewrites the bill.
Okay. All those in favor of placing amendment number 6212 onto House Bill 1128, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. You're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair Committee. What this bill does is allows for our constables to achieve more training, up to 120 hours post-certified training. I think it'd be good for our communities, make it a safer place, and move passage.
All right, you've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 1128. Moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. All in favor, vote yes on the board. Opposed, no. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board, announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 22 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Committee Chair.
We're going to take up item 3. Chairman Todd. House Bill 885. We got a proper motion in second. I do see we have some amendments. Please give us your drafting code.
6988.
That is correct. Do I have a motion on the amendment? Proper motion in second. Would you like us to place the amendment on the bill for discussion?
Yes, please.
Without objection, we're voting on amendment number 6988 going on to House Bill 885. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. You're on your amended bill, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And what this bill does, it modifies a part of the Open Meetings Act that requires all governing bodies as defined in the Open Meetings Act to be subject to agenda requirements. And what we're adding is this is how it will read once it's amended. A legislative body of an incorporated city or town, metropolitan government, or a county, regional or municipal planning commission, board of zoning appeals, a public utility board, an industrial development corporation board of directors, a housing authority, regional or municipal airport authority, county election commission, and the budget committee of a legislative body of an incorporated city or town, a metropolitan government, or a county. Those are the things that will be under the Open Meetings Act requirement for an agenda. That's all we're doing. It's pretty simple, pretty common sense. Your constituents want to know what's going on in these meetings. They need to know what's on the agenda so they can take off work and not waste their time taking off work if there's something that they're not interested in. So it's pretty common sense and I think pretty straightforward.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Representative Martin.
Thank you, Chairman Todd. I just have one question about, in the summary, it talks about including nonprofit community organizations receiving federal funding. Is that still a part of this, that if you were going to have something like, let's just say the Boys and Girls Club of Chattanooga or something like that, would this also require this 48 notice? 48
Chairman
notice?
Todd, you're recognized.
This will apply only to nonprofit or association boards that are already statutorily subject to the Open Meetings Act.
Representative Martin for a follow-up. Seeing none. Is there any other questions for the sponsor? Representative McCalman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Todd, just for clarification, I refreshed my memory because it's been a while since I heard it in subcommittee. This doesn't affect like CACs or domestic violence shelters or anything like that, does it?
Chairman Todd.
They're not included.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 885. Moving on to calendar and rules. All in favor, vote aye on the board. Those opposed, no. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board, announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 22 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill moves on to calendar and rules. I think you have the next one. House Bill 888 by Chairman Todd. Got a proper motion in second. I don't see amendments. You're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, sir. And this is another pretty much common piece of legislation that it's a shame we even have to put this in code, but this prohibits a foreign national from making a donation, expenditure, or solicitation to influence a constitutional amendment measure in our state.
So again, fairly common sense. And I'll be glad to take any questions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Is there any questions? Representative Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that's all this bill does. This bill doesn't go into allowing for contributions, to, dark money groups.
Chairman Todd.
So I don't know if this will answer your question. I'll make an attempt at it. So this literally deals with foreign nationals and their ability to influence our elections either directly or indirectly, even doing something that influences a constitutional amendment and prohibits them from directing or controlling the decision-making process of a Tennessean in the process of a constitutional amendment. So if they were even trying to influence one of us or another citizen of this state related to a constitutional amendment, that would be prohibited. And it authorizes the Registry of Election Finance to bring civil action against anyone believed to violate this law.
All right. Any other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 888. Moving on to calendar rules. All those in favor, please vote aye on the board or nay on the board. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board, announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 20 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 present not voting.
Chairman Todd, your bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you all.
All right, item number 7, Representative Gant. This is House Bill 1435 by Representative Gant. There is no amendments. We got a proper motion. We're in second. We're in right form. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All this is doing is it's changing making technical changes to the terms of the alderman positions and the mayor for the city of Oakland in my district.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 1435. Moving on to calendar and rules. All those in favor vote yes on the board, no on the board. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board, announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 ayes, 0 nays.
Representative Gant, your bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Chairman and committee.
Okay, we're going to jump back to item number 6. This is House Joint Resolution, and I think Representative Mayberry, are you?
He stepped out, sir.
He did. Okay, we'll jump to item number 8 then. House Bill 915 by Representative Sparks. Proper motion and second. Representative Sparks, I see we have an amendment. Can you please give us your drafting code?
Well, Chairman, I want to ask if I can move this to the heel of today's calendar, if that's possible.
Without objection, move to the hill. Item number 9 is off notice. Item number 10, House Bill 833 by Chairman Kiesling. Proper motion and second. Chairman Kiesling, you are recognized on your bill, and I do see we have some amendments.
Thank you, Chairman. And we do, in our cities and counties sub, previously, we did adopt 5981. Please.
Do we
Yeah.
need to place that on?
And I was hoping that was that
Okay.
submitted?
Yeah, we need to place that on. So we got a proper motion and second on the amendment. Without objection, we're voting on amendment 5981 going on to House Bill 833. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Your bill is now amended. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chairman and members. This is relative to illegal aliens. This was actually brought to me by my Senator Yeager. And earlier this year, our General Assembly passed Senate Bill 6002, creating the Centralized Immigration Enforcement Division. So again, with the adoption of the of Amendment 5981 just now, the intent of the bill is to keep us, the General Assembly, up to date with a report due by July 1 of 2026. and again, this is just only a report, a request, that will assess the population of our illegal aliens residing in Tennessee and note any associated criminal enterprises. Now, the report will also include a threat analysis for Tennessee regarding the illegal immigration. There's other more verbiage here, but that's the intent, Mr. Chairman. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions to the sponsor? Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, sponsor. I'm definitely going to support your bill, but I do have a couple questions. Will this, does this bill require the Department of Safety to compile the number of illegals that are in their state or been apprehended or been removed? What actually is it doing?
From my notes here, under the legislation, the Department of Safety would be required to provide a report to us by December 1 of each year, and I think I've already stated that. I apologize. And what further was what now?
Representative Warner.
More specifically, what?
Does this bill require the Department of Safety to report to us? And I guess my question is, are they keeping up with them now? Or
Chairman Keesling.
Going to be a new rule or something that they're going to have to do?
To my understanding, the senator conveyed to me that this is new. This is something that he's just now putting together, requesting.
Representative Warner for a follow-up.
No follow-up, but I have a question for legal. Could we go out of session, please? Sir?
Yeah, that'll be up to the membership. Without objection, we will go out of session to hear from legal. Out of session, legal, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Legal, the question would be, when we passed the bill that he referred to back in special session, was there any part of that bill that required the Department of Safety to report the amount of illegals that were apprehended in the state or had been removed from the state?
Matt Mundy from legal. To my recollection, there was no specific reporting requirement on that in that bill.
Representative Warner.
That is also my recollection. Will this bill then require the Department of Safety to report? Is that what this bill is actually doing?
Legal.
Thank you, Matt Mundy, for the record. The Centralized Immigration Enforcement Division is a division within the Department of Safety, so I would answer yes. That would be the Department of Safety reporting on, as the bill provides, regarding illegal alien criminal activity in the state.
Representative Warner.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions while we're out of session for legal? Representative Salinas.
So this is just for criminal, not civil
Legal,
cases.
you're recognized.
Representative Salinas, Matt Mundy, for the record, yes, that's correct.
Representative
Okay.
Salinas.
And entering the country is a civil offense, right?
Legal, you're recognized.
As far as I know, Representative Salinas, entering the country is a criminal offense. It may have some civil penalties as well, but I'd have to double check that.
Representative Salinas.
So if it's a federal criminal offense, how would that be interpreted under Tennessee law?
Legal.
I'm not sure I follow the question, Representative Salinas. Could you repeat that?
Representative Salinas.
So if it's a federal violation of criminal law being violated, Tennessee, how is that interpreted in Tennessee law, since Tennessee doesn't dictate immigration policy?
Legal, you're recognized.
Thank you, Matt Mundy, for the record. We can't enforce federal immigration law because there's a very broad standard of preemption for federal immigration law. So we can't enforce federal code as it pertains to immigration. This bill doesn't have any type of enforcement mechanism. It's just a reporting requirement on activity that happens within the state.
Representative Salinas, you have a follow-up?
No, I'm good.
Any other questions for legal? Chairman Moon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to council. I think 2 sessions ago, didn't we direct all the jailers in the state to ascertain the citizenship status of those people being brought into the jail?
Legal, you're recognized.
Thank you for the question, Representative. I do not recall everything that we did 2 sessions ago. I believe the sheriffs do report some information, but I can't tell you specifically to whom they report and what all the scope of those reporting requirements are.
Chairman Moon, do you have an easier question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe there's a mechanism there, but there's not a requirement to report to anyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you,
Legal.
Mr. Mundy.
Matt Bundy for the record. My recollection of what we passed in special session with the centralized immigration enforcement division and the chief officer was to provide a centralized mechanism for aggregating this type of information. And I think this bill is to facilitate that.
Does anybody have any more questions for legal? Seeing none, we'll go back in session. And Representative Kiesling, you are recognized for final statement.
Thank you, Chairman. I renew my motion.
Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to give you an explanation while I ask the question. I had a similar bill earlier in session that done some of the same things, but it got stuck with a big physical note because we had to create a new database to keep up with the illegals from the Department of Safety. But again, I just want to thank you for your bill and job well done.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Question has been called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 833. Moving on to calendar and rules. Madam Clerk, you'll open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 18 ayes, 5 nays.
Chairman Kiesling, your bill will move on to calendar and rules.
Calendar and rules. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members.
Item number 12, House Bill 1429 by Vice Chairman Reed. Got a proper motion, and I do see we have an amendment. Can you please give us your drafting code?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. The drafting code is 6900.
That is correct. Do I have a motion on the amendment? Proper motion and second. Do you want to place the amendment on the bill for discussion?
Let me speak a minute on the amendment, Mr. Chairman. And of course, this is a local bill for the city of New Johnsonville. And in the subcommittee, it was recommended that I bring an amendment. And what does the amendment states? It says shall only apply to electable positions for office within the city of New Johnsonville. Members, what this bill is an anti-nepotism bill, and they're just listing in the legislation for this private charter language is saying that they are having difficulties with family members all serving on the council, creating problems.
All right. Any questions on the amendment to the sponsor? Representative Mitchell.
Representative, this bill, I'd have a little problem with this bill. I do have a brother-in-law who is in the Tennessee General Assembly, and I've been told by some of my colleagues, between the two of us, he may be the one selected to get to stay.
Representative Reedy, at your own risk.
Mr. Chairman and committee, as I told Representative Himmer in the subcommittee, I apologize for your family situation.
All right, are we ready to place the amendment on the bill? Without objection, we're placing amendment 6900 onto House Bill 1429. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill is now amended. If you'd like to be recorded as a no, please see the clerk. You're recognized on your amended bill, Chairman Reedy.
Pretty much, Mr. Chairman, I have explained the bill, anti-nepotism bill, and some folks had questioned that, but it was some of the members on this committee will be remembering from a few years past, I brought one as far as the school board, the problem with nepotism on some of the school boards. And one of the things that came out saying, well, in these small counties, there's not enough people that would be able to serve. And especially in this situation, Representative Jerry Sexton spoke out and said, well, the problem is when you have a problem with nepotism, and if you can control it locally, there's those that will be emboldened to go ahead and serve, because then they would know that they could make a difference in their cities or counties. But
Representative Wright, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move previous question.
Question's been called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 1429. Moving on to calendar and rules. All those in favor, please say aye. Oh, no. No. Let's go on the board. All those in favor vote aye on the board. Those opposed, nay. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board, announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 20 ayes, 2 nays.
This bill moves on to calendar and rules. We're going to jump down to item 54 and take up Chairman Reedy's other bill. We got a proper motion on House Bill 1438. I do not see any amendments on it. Chairman Reedy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. The city of Aaron has been working on this cleanup bill from MTS for over a year now, and that's exactly what it does, Mr. Chairman.
The question has been called. All those in favor of voting House Bill 1438 onto calendar and rules, please vote aye on the board or nay on the board. Madam Clerk, open the board. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change the vote? Madam Clerk, close the board, announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 23 ayes, 0 nays.
Chairman Reedy, your bill moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Chairman and committee.
All right, we're jumping back to item 16 on today's calendar. This is House Bill 48 by Representative Hale. If someone could please move that chair out of the way right here and pull the mic to him. Yes. Thank you, Representative Hale, for being with us today. You do have a proper motion and second on your bill, so you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman and committee. This legislation, House Bill 48, would simply remove the cap and would be giving 100% tax relief for our disabled veterans. The goal of this legislation is to provide another way for our General Assembly to show the gratitude for those that have sacrificed so much for our great nation.
Heard the explanation of the sponsor on the bill. The question has been called, so we're ready to vote on House Bill 48. Moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. Please vote aye on the board or nay on the board. Madam Clerk, please open the board. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you will close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 23 ayes, 0 nays.
Your bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means. Representative Hale.
Thank you, Chairman and committee.
Okay, we're going to jump to item 11. This is House Bill 1413 by Representative Slater. We've got a proper motion and second. Representative Slater, you are recognized on your bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a local bill for the city of Gallatin to amend their charter so that they can impose impact fees. With that, I stand ready for questions.
You've heard the explanation of sponsors. Are there any questions? Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, sponsor. Is there a rate been established yet for what this tax may be? For the
Representative Slater.
citizens?
No, the resolution does not mention a rate or a cap.
Representative Burkhart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was going to be my question. There's not a cap on this for an impact fee?
Representative Slater, you're recognized.
No, sir. The resolution, which did pass 7-0, does not put a cap.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Representative Burkhart for a follow-up.
Yes, sir. So they could put $50,000 per house and that would be okay.
Representative Slater.
Yes, according to the resolution that was passed by the city council, that is correct.
Thank you.
Representative Burkhart, you have follow-up?
Thank you.
Okay. Make sure to get my attention so I can see you if you want to be recognized. Chairman Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In light of some of the things that have been questions and answers, And specifically, the fact that it's saying impact fee, I cannot support this. I can't support what we've got before us.
Chairman Moon, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move previous question.
Previous question's been called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 1413. Moving on to calendar and rules. All those in favor, please vote yes on the board. Those opposed, no. Madam Clerk, open the board. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change the vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 1 aye, 17 nays, and 2 present not voting.
Sorry, Representative Slater, but your bill fails.
Thank you, committee and chair.
Mr. Scarborough, will you approach the podium? We have you down for item 20. We have a proper motion and second. You're recognized on your bill.
To approve the appointment of James S. Jones to serve on the Fish and Wildlife Commission. Mr. Jones is a native and resident of Clinton. He's an Air Force veteran, former Clinton City Manager, and current president of Steve Jones and Associates. I've personally known Mr. Jones for 45 years. And again, I respectfully ask for your approval. I'll stand by for any questions.
All right, committee, I messed up. This was not supposed to go till tomorrow, but since we've heard the explanation, we'll go ahead and hear it. So the question has been called. We're voting on a confirmation. And this is Senate Joint Resolution 177. And we're confirming James S. Steve Jones for the TWRA Commission. All right, does everybody know where we're at? Okay. Representative Warner, you're recognized for question.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Normally on these appointments, and I'm sure the gentleman is a great gentleman, but don't we normally interview them or whatnot, or have them testify before the committee?
Sometimes we do, yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on Senate Joint Resolution 177. Moving on to calendar and rules. All those in favor, vote aye on the board. Those opposed, nay. Madam Clerk, open the board. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 23 ayes, 0 nays.
Representative Scarborough, your bill will move on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, sir.
Committee, we do have one more confirmation. We will hear it tomorrow. I apologize for getting that one out of order. I'm trying my best to work in the members that we have sitting down here, so please be patient with me. We'll go to item 6. Okay, we're at House Joint Resolution 146 by Representative Mayberry. We do have a motion and a second. I do see we have an amendment. Would you like to give us your drafting code, Representative Mayberry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's 5294.
That is correct. Proper motion and second on the amendment. Would you like us to place the amendment on the bill for discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection, we're voting on amendment number 5294 going on to House Bill 140, House Joint Resolution 146. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Your bill is now amended. You're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill comes from Representative Williams, and his school board asked him to run this, and I am a school board member, and I've supported this bill. It allows local boards of education to have the power to approve games of chance conducted by a nonprofit school support organization, provided that the net proceeds of the game of chance revenues are allocated to the LEAs to be used for educational or extracurricular purposes. In other words, is to allow sports teams to do a cakewalk. That's kind of the goal. And I stand ready to answer questions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Representative Dixie.
Did I hear you say you on the school board?
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I am.
Representative Dixie.
So my question is, do you think that it's appropriate for you to propose bills that would benefit the school board, that you should be the sponsor of those bills?
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm doing my role here as at the state and at this local level at the school board. We implement the rules here, but no, I do not see any conflict of doing both roles in which I was really elected to do.
Representative Dixie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just feel like we seem to, the reason it's not directed at you, but it just seems that especially this session, we've seen a lot of our colleagues introducing bills where they have conflicts of interest. And I don't understand how this one could be them, because at least I would exclude myself from the vote if I had a bill that would impact my profession or an organization that I'm a part of. And I just feel like this is probably not the best situation that we should be in right now.
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is not my bill. It's Representative Ryan Williams' bill, or Chairman Ryan Williams' bill. I am here today to support it, and I'm signed on as a co-sponsor.
Representative Dixie, anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know why you're feeling so generous today, but thank you, and I really appreciate it. Maybe I know what it is. His wife was in the audience, so she needs.
Out of order. Turn him.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But I just would think that we should probably give a little bit more consideration before we start to do things, because it's a slippery slip, and it doesn't pass the smell test. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Chairman Howell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering, for those younger members of the committee, if you could explain what a cakewalk is.
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have been a part of cakewalks. So you have cakes or numbers on the ground, and you circle it with music, and you stop. And if your number is called, you get the cake.
Representative Howell. Okay. Chairman Moon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For clarity, could you please give us a little update? This has to pass this General Assembly by a majority, the next General Assembly by 2/3 vote, and then goes on the ballot for the people to decide. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
Representative Mayberry, you can answer this question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That is correct. Yes, this would go to a vote as a constitutional amendment.
Representative Martin.
I appreciate your advocacy for children and for schools. And I guess my question is, do you benefit in any way, shape, form, or fashion personally?
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the question. I don't see how I could benefit personally, other than if my child is on one of these teams raising money and I'm trying to advocate for them. But I do have 3 children. One is graduating this year, one's a 7th grader, one's a 3rd grader.
Representative Martin.
I just wanted to affirm you and think it's most appropriate that you bring this as an advocate for children.
Next on our list is Representative Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. I'm just concerned. I'm just wondering, are we thinking we're going to have cakewalks to fund schools, since vouchers are going to take so much money out of our local schools?
At your own risk, Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Education Freedom Act is actually a great bill for our public schools. It's going to help provide increased funding, and with that, I renew my motion.
Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the previous question.
Previous question's been called. We're ready to vote on House Joint Resolution 146, moving on to Finance, Ways, and Means. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you will close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 18 ayes, 4 nays, and 1 present not voting.
Bill moves on to Finance, Ways, and Means.
21.
We're going to item 21, House Bill 622 by Representative Mayberry. Got a proper motion and second. Representative Mayberry, I see 3 drafting codes. Which one would you like to run?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to go with 6805.
Do I have a motion on 6805? Proper motion and second on the amendment. Would you like us to place the amendment on the bill for discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection, we're placing amendment 6805 onto House Bill 622. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. You're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 622 prohibits state, county, municipal, and local governments, LEAs, and public higher education institutions in Tennessee from making hiring decisions based on diversity, equity, and inclusion. The bill mandates that hiring decisions may be solely based on merit, focusing on qualifications, experience, and skills. Also, no particular candidate can be hired in order to achieve any of these goals to increase diversity, equity, or inclusion in the workplace. I stand ready to answer questions.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Representative Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Local government general has introduced and actually the Dismantle DEI Act, which prohibits local governments and public institutions of higher education from basing hiring decisions on any merits that are considered as applicants' race, color, religion, sex, national origin. Representative, let's go through some definitions. What is your definition of diversity?
Representative Mayberry.
I'm sure you're asking lots of questions here. Diversity, different people from different backgrounds.
Representative Miller.
Diversity, equity, inclusions are interconnected concepts that promote a fair and inclusive environment where everyone feels valued and has an equal opportunity to participate and succeed regardless of their background or identity. Representative, what is your definition of equity?
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You could ask me all the questions once, and I'll give them back to you. Equity would simply mean fairness, and you're going to ask me each individual word on its own merit. The next one, inclusion, is to include all. What I think you're going towards in your line of questions here, it sounds great, but these words individually, I'm for diversity, I'm for fairness, I'm for including people, but that's not what DEI really is. DEI is about lifting up one group over another. Another word for that is discrimination. And if discrimination in the past is wrong, discrimination today is wrong.
Representative Miller.
Well, basically what I'm doing is going through Webster's dictionary of these terms. And I do that for a very good reason, because I didn't have my individual definition of equity, inclusion, or diversity until this conversation came up of how do we dismantle. Do you have a definition for dismantle?
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dismantle would simply mean to take apart.
Representative Miller.
What about to destroy the integrity and the function of? Do you agree?
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My goal here is to make sure that we don't have hiring practices in the state of Tennessee, in our public institutions, in our local schools, in our colleges that hire based on discriminatory practices. That is the goal of this legislation.
Representative Miller for a follow-up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your bill simply says that you want to dismantle, and I think we've come to an agreement on the term of dismantling. It is to destroy the integrity and the function of. We should at least agree that's what the meaning is, and that's what your legislation is doing.
Next on our list is Representative Chisholm. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the sponsor, I'm going to take a different angle than my other representative from Shelby County. I'm going to go with the opposites of each one of these words. The opposite of diversity is one group or segregation. The opposite of equity is inequity. And the opposite of inclusion is exclusion. And we've had this bill before. We've had this discussion before. And, you know, the whole deal of DE&I was put together so that certain groups could be seen, not so they can get a leg up. It's just so that people at your country club, at your church, won't be the only people that you see. The state of Tennessee actually has done a fairly decent job of looking past people that we see in our own communities to do different jobs and to be on different boards. And I'm glad to see that we've had people of diverse thoughts, of diverse backgrounds, because it gives us a better scope on how to take on challenges, how to look at problems, and how to look at solutions. So to dismantle what's been done on the federal level, on the state level, I think is dangerous, because I think it takes us, I think the unintended consequence for you, because me and you've had conversations, you seem to be a pretty reasonable guy. But I think the unintended consequence of this is we'll go back to only including those people that we already know. And if you only see one group all of the time, that means that's all you're going to draw from. So this allows us to have to be able to draw from different wells so that we can have water for everybody to drink. That's all. Thank you.
Representative Mayberry, do you have a response?
I don't really know if there was a question there, but there was more of a statement. So I renew my motion.
Next on the list is Representative Powell.
Thank you. So since we are talking about universities and local governments here, I want to ask a question. Do you have any problems with universities admitting students who maybe their parents are donors to that institution and giving them preference?
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill has nothing to do with that. I don't know what you're referring to.
Representative Powell.
Well, universities often do that, public institutions. We don't seem to have a problem with that. What about, we just passed a bill dealing with nepotism in this committee. There's no banning of nepotism statewide amongst cities and counties. It looks like we have to do that individually to prevent that from taking place. So why not also include nepotism and familial, I guess, relationships with other people that might be family members?
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't, by all means, encourage you to run that bill. And this committee sounds like it may pass it.
Representative Salinas.
Yeah, my question's kind of more towards the education part of this. The educator diversity policies often promote and collect, analyze, and strengthen our ability to recruit teachers, especially in helping us retain teachers in our communities. Right now, Tennessee is in a huge shortage of teachers. So why would we remove a policy that would strengthen our teacher workforce in a time where we're having trouble recruiting teachers to come and remain in our state?
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great question, Representative Salinas. My school district is Clarksville and Montgomery County Schools. We currently have 141 open positions. We welcome everybody. And I would encourage anybody that is qualified and of quality, come. We don't care what your background is. We're going to hire you. And that's what our district said just here recently when this was brought to them. And I believe every district across our entire state, if you are qualified and quality, come, we want to hire you.
Representative Salinas for a follow-up.
Yes, but DEI policies don't hire unqualified people. That's the point that we're making, is that we have qualified people that we're trying to recruit to teach our students. And this bill, is not, the current state is we are recruiting people that are qualified. I don't have anything else.
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The DA policies have turned into identity-based politics, and they're aimed at segregating and separating people into groups. This is ideological by nature and wrong. And here in Tennessee, we're going to lead the way with this legislation to stop these discriminatory practices. Thank you.
Okay, I've got a few people on the list that have already spoken, so I'm going to jump over a couple of you and let somebody who has not spoke on this particular item. Representative Dixie, you're recognized.
Thank you. I just have a couple of quick questions. Representative Mayberry, I would kind of ask you to I know you wasn't there, but kind of give me your idea of why DEI was initially inputted or needed.
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back in the 2010s, as far as back as I can see, where the terms diversity, equity, inclusion started to come together in the mainstream, it really became really mainstream in the 2020s during COVID timeframe. From what I gather, people are trying to lift up different groups of people based on maybe things that happened in the past to create opportunities.
Representative Dixie.
I don't even know what to say to that because you literally just proved our point. Take this bill off notice. This is ridiculous. I make a motion that we send this bill to summer study.
We have a proper motion and it's properly seconded. So give me just a second. We will place this on the board. So Madam Clerk, all those in favor of voting to send this to summer study, please vote aye. Those opposed, vote nay. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Madam Clerk, announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 5 ayes, 17 nays.
Motion fails. We're back on the original motion, and next on the list is Representative McCalman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Previous question.
Okay, previous questions being called. We're ready to vote on House Bill 622. Moving on to the Education Committee. All those in favor, please vote aye on the board. Those opposed, nay. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 17 ayes, 5 nays.
Representative Mayberry, your bill moves on to the Education Committee. Item 22, House Bill 310 by Representative Mayberry. Proper motion and second. Representative Mayberry, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 310 creates a presumption that diagnosis of the law enforcement officer or emergency medical responder with post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of responding to certain instances would be occurred in the line of duty, that there would be a presumption that their PTSD developed would be based on their actions. This is actually an amendment or changing of the James Dustin Samples Act that passed the House about a year or two ago from Representative Johnny Garrett. With that, I renew my motion.
Powell. You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Representative Powell, you're recognized.
Yeah, I just want to say this is a good bill. Unfortunately, there have been a lot of, I know, law enforcement officers, emergency medical personnel that are constantly having to see things that are traumatic, especially those involving children. I think it's really important for them to be able to get the help they need, and then also be able to get the workers' comp. Unfortunately, there are also a lot of mental health issues that go along with this. So I think it's an important bill to pass. Thank you.
Any other questions for the sponsor? Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say also, this is a constituent bill. State Trooper Andy Shelton brought this to me from my district. He has seen more traumatic accidents in the state of Tennessee than any other person that's a state trooper. He just retired. He had developed PTSD. It took a very long time for him to get approved, and we brought this bill today to help those who are in the same spot.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor of House Bill 310 moving on to Finance, Ways and Means, please vote aye on the board. Opposed, no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 19 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means. And the end of the Mayberry portion of our agenda, House Bill 923 by Representative Mayberry. We got a proper motion and second. I do see we have an amendment on this bill. Would you like us, first of all, give me your drafting code?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's 6418.
That is correct. Do I have a motion, proper motion and second on the amendment? Would you like us to place the amendment on the bill?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all those in favor, without objection, all those in favor of placing amendment number 6418 onto House Bill 923, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. You're recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 923 prohibits a department, agency, or unit of state or government or political subdivision of the state, such as a county, municipal, metropolitan government, or public institution of higher education from maintaining or authorizing an office of department that promotes or requires discriminatory preferences to increase diversity, equity, or inclusion. It declares all mandates, policies, programs, activities, guidance, regulations, enforcements, actions, consent orders, or other declarations by such an office, division, or department as void. This bill is to promote merit-based systems. I renew my motion.
You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Representative Powell.
I just have a question. So this would allow for, say, if a governor wanted to appoint an all-male, white heads of all departments, he could do that and there would be no objection whatsoever based upon that.
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill will say that we're not going to appoint based on any of the qualifications, which I just shared, those characteristics. That's what this bill will do.
Representative Powell.
Well, I think that's a major problem. I'm against it. Again, I get back to if we were going to deal with some of the swamp in government that exists in the state of Tennessee, and there's a lot of it, then we would get down to banning family members from serving in government roles. We would also get down to preventing anybody that donates to campaigns in large numbers from serving in roles. Instead, you've chosen to focus on things that are important, like DEI policies. So I think this just makes government a lot worse. Thank you.
Representative Miller.
Actually, I thought about a motion, but to send this away, but I think it wouldn't pass. Representative, what are you afraid of with this kind of legislation? Do you have a fear of I don't know, inclusion, equity, diversity? I'm up here and I see a lot of immigration bills, a ton of immigration bills. It seems as if you are pointing your fingers at your colleagues, at the people you go to church with, the people you eat with. I don't understand. What are you doing here? What's your fear?
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to finish with Representative Dixie from before as well, that is what is said to be the purpose of DEI, but that is not in practice what DEI does. And to respond to you, Representative Miller, my goal here is to stop discrimination. Again, discrimination in the past is wrong. Discrimination today is wrong, despite the race or the characteristics.
Representative Miller for a follow-up.
Representative Mayberry, who's being discriminated against, in your opinion, in this legislation? What ethnicity are we talking about here?
Okay, before I recognize anybody else, let's keep decorum and not attack people. Representative Mayberry, answer the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Many different races would be discriminated against depending on different situations here. So I can't particularly give you one race or one characteristics of a person being discriminated against, but these policies in practice discriminate against many groups of people.
Representative Miller for a follow-up.
So we're discriminating these policies against the Jewish community, the African-American community, the white community. We are discriminating against whom? Which groups are we actually discriminating against?
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, the number one beneficiary of DEI policies are white women. So yes to your answer there.
Okay, Representative Miller, I'm not going to recognize you at this time. I'll come back to you. Representative Dixie, your name was called. Representative Chisholm. Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had two bills from you in a very short period of time that talks about pretty much the same thing. So what's the mindset of sitting at home and coming up with these bills like almost to the exclusion of the things that 90% that most Tennesseans actually care about, like putting food on the table, making sure our communities are safe, and things of that nature. What makes you work on these kind of bills?
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the question. My life's been by diversity. I went to a very diverse college. I pastor the most diverse church in my community, probably one of the most diverse churches in the state. We do not pick winners and losers. We do things based on merit. It's the right thing to do. It's how biblically it should be as a pastor. I want to give you a quote here from Morgan Freeman, great actor. He said in an interview with Mike Wallace, "How are we going to stop and end racism?" Mike Wallace asked him. Morgan Freeman says, "Stop talking about it. I'm not going to stop calling you a white man, and you stop calling me a black man." We're never going to get past the wrongs of the past if we continue to bring these conversations forward and try to put these discriminatory policies in place. We're going to end them in Tennessee. We're going to move on. We're going to be the first in the entire nation to do so. And I'm very proud of that.
Representative Chisholm.
All right, we'll be the first in the nation to take us back into the dark ages. Well, we was one of the last states to come out of those same dark ages. I appreciate the quote from an actor, but we have so many other thought leaders who fought so that you and I could serve in the same chamber together. I'm reminded of people such as our beloved Barbara Cooper, who's no longer with us, who remember a day when she could only come in this building if she had a broom in her hand. I'm reminded of some of Samson Keeble, who was the first Black person to serve in this chamber, and he only served one term because of things that were done in the building. So I'm sitting here right now. I'm kind of shaking a little bit because we have these bills to undo a lot of the things that, as a country, we've tried to get away from. The certain departments were meant again. So a lot of these DEI or affirmative action or whatever name it wants to be called, it was put together so that we'll have more than just white men serving in different areas. And yes, DEI has been weaponized because according to the Department of Labor, 60% of DEI went to white women. And I'm sitting here as a Black man who's at the bottom of the totem pole of people who actually receive DEI from the Department of Labor. We only got 4% of DEI. So really, I'm not even fighting for myself. I'm fighting for fairness, fairness for people to be able to be seen. Not so that people can get jobs and work in different departments because of their race or their creed, but despite of it. Because if you're only hiring your friends, that's who's going to be there. So I'll follow up with this question. Do you think we have too many women and African American or Hispanic or other minorities? Do you think we have too many of them serving in different departments or being served by departments?
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is not about anti-diversity. This bill, it brings true diversity. Merit-based systems are going to create a system in Tennessee where we're going to choose the best people. That's naturally going to be diverse because they're going to be Hispanic people, Black people, Asian people, white people, Middle Eastern people, whatever, fill in the blank, that are going to get the jobs. And we're going to have a naturally diverse workforce. That's what we're going to get in Tennessee. And I'm excited to see that. Because again, my life's been about diversity, and I love diversity in the people around me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, for your gravity. One more question. Do you think in the early 1960s, but before 1964, before we came up with any of these policies, do you think we were hiring people based solely on merit back then?
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for bringing that up. Title VII, Civil Rights Act 1964 prohibits any discrimination. Before that, that's a different time, different period. 1964, if my calculations are correct, were a long time ago. We need to, in our society today, we need to go beyond discrimination. We need to go beyond discrimination. These practices are discriminatory. And we're going to, in Tennessee, say we are tired of discrimination. We're going to go forward. And we're not going to see each other in these terms.
Representative Chisholm for the last time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you. Yeah. So, when we talk about the past, when things have happened to certain groups, we say, hey, that was a long time ago. And when it happens to other groups, we say, never forget. So I want to make sure that we never forget what was done to certain people in this country, in this state. And when we say that was a long time ago, it's kind of dismissive because we have people in this committee right now who were alive then. So it's not that long ago. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with you. We need to teach history as it was taught. The HCR that Representative Shaw brought earlier today, I signed on to. I wholeheartedly believe that, and we need to do that in our in our books, in our history, what we teach in school. What this legislation will do is stop discriminatory practices, and that's what we're doing here.
Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move previous question.
Previous question's been called. We're ready to vote on House Bill. Is there 3 objections? We'll put it on the board. All those in favor of previous question, vote aye on the board or nay on the board. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 17 ayes, 5 nays.
Previous question prevails. We are now voting on House Bill 923, moving on to, let me see here, Finance, Ways and Means. Representative Dixie, for what purpose?
I have a question for you.
For me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a parliamentary inquiry. I don't know. Maybe it's a statement. But to my understanding, it seems like a lot of times that when we come to these committee meetings, this is where we're supposed to flesh out if it's a good or bad bill. And when you call the question, it kind of defeats that purpose because once it gets to the floor, debate is cut. Things are it's happening really quickly. So I would hope that as my colleagues, as we move forward, that we will allow a robust debate and stop saving whoever the sponsor is from not being able to defend their bill, and let us actually have a good conversation about what the bills are, because we really don't get a chance to have those on the floor because of time constraints and people calling the questions. So
thank you, Representative Dixie. We are now voting on House Bill 923, moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 17 ayes, 5 nays.
Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Chair Committee.
Leader Camper. What's her? Item 25. Leader Camper, this is House Bill 686.
Yes, sir.
Do I have a motion on the bill? Proper motion and second. Leader Camper, I do see we have an amendment on here. Can you please give us your drafting code?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Drafting code 6793.
That is correct. Do I have a motion? Proper motion and second on the amendment. Would you like us to place the amendment on the bill?
I would, Mr. Chairman. It
Without
makes the
objection,
bill.
we're placing amendment number 6793 onto House Bill 686. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill's now amended. You're recognized, Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. Mr. Chairman and members, what this bill does is create the African American Cultural and Historical Grant Fund. Well, you just adopted the amendment. When we were in subcommittee, we had an amendment that would put this in the tourism, but we talked with the Historical Commission and they wanted housed in the Historical Commission. So that's what the amendment does. In creating this grant act, the purpose would be to support projects, capital projects in the state that highlights the contribution, cultural, and historical significance of African Americans in our state. Again, the fund will be administered by the Tennessee Historical Commission, and the monies will be appropriated in this fund from nonprofits, from organizations. We allow them to donate to the funds so that they can do the grants to preserve some of these historical facilities in our state. Finally, the Historical Commission would establish the guidelines for application, including eligibility, the award amount of the grants, and will set priorities for the projects that will be renovated using these funds for these capital projects. Mr. Chairman and members, just to name like just a few of some places in the state that could benefit from this. In Memphis, we have the Claiborne Temple. Many of you know about that from where Dr. King and the sanitation workers strike was going on. The Alex Haley House, which was the home of the author of the book Roots. Beale Street at Fisk University, we have the historical gallery there of artifacts. We have the Macklemore House in Franklin, the Eliza Harris Park in LaGrange, where this is the home of the lady who inspired Uncle Tom's Cabin, Fort Pillow, Green McAdoo Cultural Center, and several others like this in our state that we would like to be able to preserve these facilities. So thank
You've
you,
heard
Mr.
the
Chairman and committee. I
explanation of the
appreciate your favorable
sponsor.
vote.
Are there any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 686, moving on to government operations. All those in favor, please vote aye on the board, nay on the board. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 22 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill moves on to government operations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Representative Shaw. House Bill 94. Proper motion, and do I have a second? Second. Representative Shaw, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. This bill is before you a while back. This is the bill where we are asking that the state pay for all autopsies and transportation for inmates through TDOC and CoreCivic and take it off our counties. And we do have some counties in the state of Tennessee, mine being one of them, that have experienced this quite a bit. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Is there any questions for the sponsor? Representative Powers.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for bringing this forward. I know it's been through our committee and we've talked about it a lot, but it's only right, I think, for state government to pay for state inmates and local government to pay for local. That's all we're trying to do on this bill. So I appreciate that. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious, since I have a prison in my district, one, what does it cost to do an autopsy on an inmate? And two, what does it cost to transport them? I see the physical cost on this. I'm just curious.
Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that question, but that's a question that cannot be answered because each autopsy is different. There's no way I guess we could give an estimate. My county said some of them up to $5,000 without the transportation, but not all of them. It depends on the condition of the body, whatever, that is how the cost would be determined.
Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So do you know how many autopsies we're doing on inmates now? I mean, just round numbers.
Representative Shaw.
I do not have that information. I could get it for my county, but I do not know across the state.
I don't have anyone else on the list, so we're ready to vote. All those in favor of House Bill 94, moving on to Finance, Ways and Means, please vote aye on the board. Opposed, no. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 ayes, 0 nays.
Representative Shaw, your bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members, and
We're gonna
I've
take
enjoyed this committee.
Okay. Go, shoot. House item number 27, this is House Bill 427. The representative asked that this has been taken off notice. So without objection, we'll take it off notice. Representative Gillespie. Item 13. This is House Bill 308. Representative Gillespie, let me check one thing. We're withdrawal. All right. At this time, I'll recognize Vice Chairman Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, we do have some cleanup that we need to do regarding the amendments that we'd looked at earlier on this bill. Last week, we had added 6047 to the bill. The sponsor has indicated that he would like to run a different one. We need to we need a motion to reconsider our actions on Amendment 6047. Do I have a motion and second? We have a motion and second on reconsidering our action on Amendment 6047. Am I through?
Go. Now, I'm going to let you finish. So,
Okay.
go ahead. You're doing great.
This will give me practice for working on you
There you
tomorrow.
go.
Now, Representative Gillespie, I see you have two amendments filed with us.
Wait, let's vote on that.
Okay, reconsider our action. All in favor of reconsidering our action, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We will reconsider. Now, Representative Gillespie, I see you have two amendments filed with us. Which one do you like to run?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's 3787.
Motion.
Thank you, Representative Gillespie. We have before us now Amendment 3787. All in favor of placing on the bill, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The bill is amended.
All right. let me see one more thing. All right, Representative Gillespie, you are recognized on your amended bill.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and Committee. Last week, I started off on this bill, so I'm not going to waste the committee's time any more than I need to. I just want to clarify 2 points before I ask my guests to come up, if you could recognize them after I make this brief statement. Is that okay? Okay.
You're recognized.
Thank you so much. So first of all, I just wanted to say there was some confusion last week about a resolution having already been done or not done by my local body, Shelby County. That has been done. I have it here. The chairman has it. We can get that to you. Secondly, the other point of confusion from last week is the fall off of after 8 years when this tax would go away if approved by the local citizens of Shelby County. That extra 0.5% that would remain only in unincorporated areas of Shelby County and nowhere else. And that would be used to maintain said new jail so that we're not doing this again later down the road. And with that, I would love to invite my guests up to speak that have signed up to testify, please.
All right, give us just a second. Does anybody have any questions for the sponsor at this time? Does anybody have any objection us going out of session to hear from our guest? Without objection, out of session. I guess our first person is Mrs. Alicia Lindsay. Miss Lindsay, we will control your mic for you and turn it on. Just give us your name and who you're with, and you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Committee. I'm Alicia Lindsay, Chief Administrative Officer for Shelby County Sheriff's Office in Memphis, Tennessee. And what this bill will allow is for the citizens of Shelby County to have a referendum to decide whether or not they would like a 1% sales, for the unincorporated part of Shelby County, a 1.5% sales tax increase, and for the other part of Shelby County, the municipalities, a 1% sales tax increase to build a jail, or if we would have a 74 cents property tax increase. So the jail at 201 Poplar was built in 1981, is over 43 years old, and it is basically in a state of disrepair. In the current year, we've already spent or encumbered $16.5 million to repair doors, to correct deficiencies in the jail. But that is just putting a Band-Aid on a problem. It doesn't solve the need for a new jail. So the current jail at 201 Poplar was designed for 2,400 inmates. Today we have over 2,500, and about 120 of those are state inmates. And we're currently being reimbursed by the state of Tennessee $41 per day. And we're working to try to get that reimbursement increased. The last time we had a jail study was in 2008. And it was estimated that the cost of the facility would be about $497 million. Today, it's anywhere between $800 million and $1 billion. So prices today are 1.48 times higher than in 2008. We're currently working with CTAS. They are preparing a master jail study for us, and hopefully that'll be done in about 2 weeks. So we'll know the exact cost of what it will take to build a jail. So in the last fiscal year budget in Shelby County, the jail was not included in the CIP project. We have some other competing priorities such as school buildings, a new hospital, but a jail is very important. We must have a safe environment for both our detainees and our staff. Another option would be for the county to issue general obligation debt. And the interest alone on the debt would be of what it would cost to build a new jail, about $818 million. So the choices are a property tax increase, a sales tax increase that would be borne by anybody who visits Shelby County and the residents of Shelby County, or a property tax increase on our residents. In the city of Memphis last year, there was a 49-cent property tax increase. Today, the mayor of Memphis is also presenting his budget, and he plans to also have another tax increase. We don't know what's going to happen with the Shelby County budget yet. It won't be out until later in the month. But those are the options. So basically, we're just asking this body for favorable support to allow the citizens of Shelby County to make a decision on this, on a sales tax increase.
Thank you, Ms. Lindsley. Appreciate you being here with us today. If you don't mind to just stay there in case members have any questions. Next on the list is Amber Mills. Is Amber Mills here? Amber, we'll turn your mic on. Please give us your name and who you're with. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Amber Mills. I'm a Shelby County Commissioner, and I'm here in support of House Bill 308. Everything CAO Lindsay said, I would add to. This is basically fighting a property tax increase of 74 cents that will be competing with other projects with no guarantee that the money in a property tax increase would go to the jail. It's not exciting, it's not fun, it's not glamorous, but it is necessary. And the jail used to be a public safety asset. It is now a huge liability to the county. We are putting more and more money in our tort fund because of lawsuits, and it needs to be addressed. Our time is out. The federal government is looking at us. So we're asking you to help us help ourselves, to give our people an option of how they would like to fund the new jail that needs to be built. Thank you.
Does any of the members have any questions for our guest? Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the madam that spoke first. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. How many inmates did you say that you had in the county jail state that were, I guess, state inmates?
Ms. Lindsay.
Approximately 120.
Representative Warner.
So one solution, or maybe could be, or one thought, I guess, or one question I have, why don't you unload them on the state? Why don't you tell the state to come get them?
Representative Lindsay.
We have.
Representative.
Well,
Representative Warner.
We have asked the state to pick up their inmates.
And what's their excuse?
It hasn't been done yet.
No, okay, thank you.
Representative Dixie.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to ask a quick question. You said in the CIP program it's competing against different entities, and you said schools. How much was allocated towards schools through that program for capital improvement projects?
I don't even remember. 72 million?
I believe it was 72 million last year.
72 million. And this project will cost roughly $800 million to $1 billion?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Bricken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two questions. If this bill should pass, when would the election be and when would be the effective date of the tax?
Go ahead.
Thank you. It would be on our 2026 summer, and it would go before the county commission, and we would approve it to be on a referendum for our August 2026.
So summer of 26?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it'll become effective?
We'll
the
start
month-
collecting.
Immediately.
The second question, certainly, I guess, drawing on my years formerly as a county commissioner, y'all better have a better B plan, because the citizens generally will not vote in a tax increase unless unless it's for education. So I'm not sure who's going to be promoting this in Shelby County, but you also, if you're 2 years away hoping kind of for a prayer, and I just think you're probably going up the wrong tree here, but that's all.
Representative Bricken, you mean to say you are a recovering county commissioner, right? Okay, all right. Just want to make sure. Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm curious on what the estimates are to remodel and revamp the current jail. If you're looking at $800 to $1 billion, $800 million to $1 billion to build a new jail, what would it cost to remodel and or expand the current jail to bring it up to the standards and so forth that it needs to be at?
Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you today, but I'll be happy to go back and do that research and get an email back to you in the committee if that would be acceptable.
Representative Butler.
I'm just curious why that option, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious why that option hasn't been explored. I mean, $1 billion is a tremendous amount of money for any tax burden. And so I'm curious why we've not looked at remodeling and bringing it up to the current standards and what that estimate would be. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Next on our list is Representative Burkhart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did I understand that the referendum would read either or it would be one or the other? Or in other words, you're going to pick one or the other, or it's going to be up or down?
The referendum would be for a 1% sales tax increase.
Okay, and that's it.
That's it.
Do you know?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you have an idea of what the mayor's going to impose as far as a tax increase this year already?
Not for Shelby County and nor for the city of Memphis. The mayor of Memphis just released his budget today. So unfortunately, I don't have that information. I do know that it's a reappraisal year this year, so there should not be a windfall from the reappraisal, and hopefully the tax rates will stay the same unless there is a tax increase. But unfortunately, we don't have that information today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Chairman Eldridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Chairman Bricken's point over there, have you all considered what your plan B is? Do you have a plan B if it doesn't pass?
The plan B would be a property tax increase, and that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to give the citizens a choice to do a temporary sales tax increase that goes away, or property tax.
But you wouldn't be coming back to us?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions for our guest? Representative Chisholm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, just trying to wrap my head around it again. So the sales tax increase is temporary, but if we don't do it, what would trigger the property tax increase?
What would trigger a property tax increase is the need to build a new jail, whether it's the Department of Justice telling us to come in, they come in and say, you've got to build a new jail. At that point, up until that point, I don't think there's a sense of urgency. So we've been blowing the horn and saying, hey, we need a new jail. Spending $16 million, $16.5 million in 1 year to make repairs to the jail is not sustainable.
Okay.
Representative Chisholm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So let's say the average cost of a home in Memphis is $250,000. Right. So what would that property tax increase look like on a $250,000 home?
I've got that.
I would have to do that math real quick.
Can I do the Jeopardy music?
Sure, go ahead.
Home worth $220,000 pays $1,628 more $1,000 more a year.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And
Any
thank
other
you.
questions for our guest? Seeing none, without objection, we'll go back in session. Thank you all for being with us today. Thank you for taking your time out. Okay. Representative Warner.
Mr. Chairman, I move previous question.
That's a non-debatable motion. We will go ahead and be voting on House Bill 308. Moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. Madam Clerk, open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Folks, we are voting on the bill. There was no objection to previous question, so we're voting on the bill. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk? close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 7 ayes, 13 nays, and 1 present not voting.
I'm sorry, Representative Gillespie, your bill fails.
17.
Item number 17. Item number 17 is House Bill 177. The sponsor has asked that we take this bill off notice. So without objection, we're taking it off notice. 18, House Bill 855 by Representative Reeves. Proper motion and a second. We're in proper form. I do see we have an amendment. Would you please give us the drafting code?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I do that, I hereby request that any and all votes taken on amendments to this bill are taken by a roll call vote. And that drafting code is 6387.
Okay, we are voting on Amendment 6387, going on to House Bill 855. Just for time's sake, can we put this on the board instead of doing a roll call vote?
Perfect.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, you will open the board for a roll call vote on Amendment 6387. Go ahead.
What's the rule on the amendments? I didn't think they had to go on the board.
They don't have to. But he asked for a roll call vote. To save time, we're gonna put it on the board. Representative Miller, did you have a question? Okay, Madam Clerk, open the board for voting on Amendment 6387 going on to House Bill 855. Has everyone voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 18 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 present not voting.
Bill's now amended. 6387 is on House Bill 855. You're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So HB 855 ensures that the primary election format is extended from certain offices currently listed to county level partisan office nominations rather than party conventions. While statewide and U.S. congressional offices were already required to use primaries, this bill simply extends that same standard of voter participation and transparency to key local offices. And it's important to note that certain counties are grandfathered in to continue their use of a party convention if they desire to do so. And this expresses a legislative intent for the primary format for partisan nominations while recognizing current local practices. And with that, I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You've heard the explanation of the sponsor. We will have questions for the sponsor, but we do have people signed up to speak. Would the membership rather hear from them first or ask questions now? Okay, without objection, we'll go out of session. And if these members would come up and take, these guests come up and take a seat at the table, I'm looking for Kimberly Calcott, Rick Shepard, Diane Chenard, and Chris Morris. Folks, what we will do is we will control your mics. We will start with Miss Chenard over here on this side and move to your all's right. So give us your name, who you're with, and you'll have 3 minutes. You're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman and committee members, thank you for having me here today. I'm Diane Chenard, Vice Chair of the Williamson County Republican Party, or WCRP. I'm an unpaid volunteer serving a second term as a board member. It was the WCRP board election on March 4th, 2025 that I believe inspired House Bill 855 before you today. For background, biennial elections of county board members are required under the bylaws of the Tennessee Republican Party. Historically, these elections have earned modest mention in the local news. Not this time. In Williamson County, powerful moneyed interests backed 8 individuals for the board. Their campaign used smear tactics throughout and had the support of most mainstream media. Yet informed, educated, and engaged bona fide Republican voters saw through the lies and denied them even one seat. At stake now, with this bill, is the right of the Republican Party to act according to its bylaws that state that only Republican bona fide voters may choose nominees for elected office. This bill fails to protect Republican voters from ongoing illegal crossover voting in primaries and vice versa. To illustrate the magnitude of the problem, of the roughly 33,000 votes cast in Williamson County's March 2024 primary, nearly 4,000 were cast by Democrats, or 13% of the vote total. Besides the concerns that this bill usurps party authority and that it fails to protect votes of bona fide voters, if it passes, it imposes an unfunded fiscal burden on county taxpayers. You are all men and women of good faith, sworn to uphold and defend God-given rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I submit that abrogating the rights of private political parties is not faithful to your oath. Today, I respectfully ask members on both sides of the political aisle to look beyond the showy arguments and in support of this bill and vote no on House Bill 855. Thank you.
Next will be Mr. Morris. Give us your name, who you're with, and you'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Crawford and the committee. It's an honor to be here today. My name is Chris Morris. I am the State Executive Committee member for Senatorial District 28. I'm here in person regarding the proposed amendment to House Bill 855, which is clearly unconstitutional. In particular, I wish to highlight serious constitutional issues raised by this amendment in light of the Supreme Court's ruling in Tashian and Republican Party of Connecticut in 1986. In Tashian, the Republican Party of Connecticut, the Supreme Court held that the political parties have the First Amendment right to, 1, determine their own membership requirements, 2, to choose their candidates through methods that reflect their benefits or their beliefs and practices, and 3, from undue government interference. The court emphasized political parties as an association and are constitutionally protected in their right to regulate their internal procedures without excessive governmental control. Specifically, the court found Connecticut's law, which requires parties to allow unaffiliated voters to participate in their primaries, violated the First Amendment rights of the Republican Party. House Bill 855 as amended would infringe upon these same First Amendment rights by imposing unnecessary and unconstitutional restrictions on the ability of the political parties to regulate their own internal process, including selection of candidates. Such governmental intrusion into party function contradicts the principles upheld by the Supreme Court in Tashian, which the court made clear the states cannot compel a political party to open its primary process to individuals who do not share political parties' views or affiliation. This amendment, in its attempt to regulate the structure of the political party primaries and selection of candidates, poses a clear violation of constitutional rights afforded to political parties under both the First and 14th Amendments. By infringing on these rights, the amendment undermines the very foundation of free and open political system in both political parties, and have the autonomy to select their own candidates and govern their own political affairs. Given these constitutional concerns, I respectfully urge the committee to reconsider and reject this amendment to House Bill 855. It's essential that we uphold the rights of the political parties to determine their own membership and candidate selection process without unconstitutional interference from the state. In doing so, we preserve the integrity of our democratic system and the fundamental principles of political freedoms. Thank you for your time and your consideration of this important issue, I trust you will make the right decision in safeguarding our constitutional rights. Thank you.
Mr. Shepherd, give us your name and who you're with, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, all. I'm Rick Shepard. I'm recently retired from the Tennessee Army National Guard and the U.S. Army after serving over 36 years. In 2004, 2005, I deployed to Iraq with the 278th Army Cavalry Regiment out of Athens, Tennessee, where I was born and raised. During that deployment, my soldiers and I defended our election polls with our lives so that Iraqi citizens could have the right to hold their very first free and fair election. I don't know if some of y'all remember seeing them on the news holding up their index finger and their thumb where they had to do a print proudly showing they voted. In my years of service, I have voted absentee at least twice. I have early voted multiple times, and so have my soldiers for deployments overseas and in support of the latest one was Hurricane Irma. No, sorry, that was mine. Hurricane Helen that hit Tennessee and the Carolinas. I have had to vote early so I could cast my ballot prior to moving to a Southwest Border mission myself and my soldiers in 2008. I wrote this down because I knew I would miss some stuff. I never thought I would have to come to my own state in my own country that I have dearly loved and fight to stop voter suppression. I see no way around that. That is not what this is. For reasons that I do not understand, there's a drive by a small, loud group in Tennessee that wants to cancel local primary elections. This would mean that military members deployed overseas, stationed overseas, would lose their ability to vote absentee. So would members of the Tennessee National Guard when activated to assist in other missions, as I described before. This would have affected me personally, not only my soldiers, but me. Disenfranchising the men and women serving the United States Armed Forces and the Tennessee National Guard by canceling any primary elections is dead wrong. Ending the right to vote for soldiers and other service members in an absentee voting for any election is morally reprehensible and frankly un-American. I'm very passionate about this. I'm very passionate about this. I felt like this is what I served my entire life, to have to come here and fight for it on my own soil. I respectfully ask the committee to support House Bill 855. Thank you for your time and allowing me to voice my concerns.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Calcote, I apologize. You're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you to the committee and to the chairman for allowing me to testify. My name is Kimberly Calcote, and I'm a resident of Williamson County and a mother of 4 children. Having recently participated in a convention, my experience was that it was unorganized, chaotic, and left many voters feeling disenfranchised. We had mothers that couldn't attend due to the lengthy event due to taking care of young children. We had shift workers and first responders like doctors, nurses, policemen, firemen, and many others unable to attend due to work obligations. We even had a U.S. elected official that was unable to attend because she was serving our state in Washington, D.C. If we allowed our nominees for county offices to be selected this way, we would depress the vote even further and allow for political insiders to have their voices heard. It wouldn't be the voices of all the moms in the county, or the doctors, or our military servicemen who are serving to protect our right to vote. We would potentially deny over 200,000 18 to 21-year-olds in our state their rights to vote because they don't qualify under certain party bylaws. Do we really want to show these new voters that their voices don't matter? Also, if a voter is willing to risk their life in the military for our country, we have a duty to protect their right to vote. Since a caucus doesn't allow for absentee voting or early voting, it disenfranchises thousands of important voices in our community and all deployed military personnel. Because our state is #1 in election integrity and people have confidence in our nonpartisan election commissions, we should be allowing them to administer our elections. In contrast, with a caucus, the very people running the elections are often biased towards candidates and have stakes in the outcome. As a busy mom of 4 children, I appreciate you considering this bill to protect my right to vote. In my eyes, the state has a legitimate interest in ensuring fair, transparent, and inclusive elections, especially since our tax dollars are utilized. Primaries provide the public, not just party insiders, a role in selecting who appears on the ballot. This is about having the power to select nominees with the people of a political party, not a small group of political insiders who handpick nominees for their own agendas. Please vote yes to House Bill 855. Thank you for your time.
We will now take questions for our guest. We'll start with Representative Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is for legal. Can I ask legal, or would you rather dispense with our guest before we go to legal?
Is there any other questions anybody has for legal? Okay. Without objection, then we will go out of session. We're out of session and we will hear from legal. Go ahead and ask your question, Representative Martin.
Yes, legal. I had heard the gentleman here to the left who is, name fails me, Morris. But he had mentioned that this was unconstitutional, this law, and yet the law is, and I don't know if he's a lawyer or what he does, but I know you are a lawyer, and I know you understand the law. We legally do this with the state and the federal, where we have primaries. That is a legal process in Tennessee TCA. Is that correct? That they are elected state and federal by primary?
Representative?
Nominated, I should say.
Legal, you're recognized.
Matt Mundy from Legal Services. Yes, that's correct.
Representative Martin?
So here again, I don't know. I know your legal background, so I'm going to ask you, is there anything in this that when we talk about counties that makes it different than what we would do with state and federal, where it would be illegal?
Legal?
I think perhaps Matt Mundy from Legal, I think it'd be worth backing up just a minute with the Tajian case and talking about what the Supreme Court standard is so we understand the context of the bill. The important question for the Supreme Court when it's looking at primaries or the mechanism by which we elect people is to look at whether or not a party's associational rights are being affected. And in the Tajian case in Connecticut, there was a state statute that's been around since the 1950s that required a completely closed primary. In 1986, I think, was when the lawsuit was filed. The Republican Party, prior to that, had changed their party rule. They wanted to loop in independent voters who were registered independents. And so they sued. Now, the Secretary of State was charged with enforcing the state statute, which required a closed primary and wouldn't allow independents to vote in the Republican primary, despite the Republican Party wanting independents to be able to vote in their primary. The Republican Party won. The Supreme Court said that it violated the Republican Party's rights of association with those registered independents because that's what the party wanted to do. Ironically, 10 years previous to the Tajian decision, an independent voter wanted to vote in the Republican primary, but couldn't because of that same statute. And he sued in 1976, and the Supreme Court upheld the statute, saying that the closed primary was a legitimate exercise of the government's interest in maintaining the integrity of elections in the state. And going back all the way to, well, in the state of Tennessee, to a Supreme Court case called Ledgerwood v. Pitts from 1910, Tennessee Supreme Court has said the right of the legislature to require that nominations shall be held by primary and to prescribe additional qualifications for the voters participating in the same has been recognized by the weight of authority in the states of the union. That case has been cited several times in other states. It's been cited by the Supreme Court at least twice. The Supreme Court has said, going back as far as 1974, that the states may limit each political party to one candidate for each office on the ballot and may insist that inter-party competition be settled before the general election by primary election or by party convention. That's American Party of Texas v. White from 1974. They reiterated that subsequent to the Tajian case. And Lopez Torres, the 2008 Supreme Court case, where I think it was Clarence Thomas who wrote the opinion, said, we have, for example, considered it to be too plain for argument that a state may prescribe party use of primaries or conventions to select nominees who appear on the general election ballot. So it's not the selection process necessarily that the state cannot prescribe. What the state cannot do is force a party to associate or disassociate with a group of people that it wants to include for the purpose of voting in the primaries or in the convention or in the caucus or whatever the mechanism may be. Does that answer your question, Representative Martin?
Representative Martin.
Oh, did it ever?
And
Just as a follow-up, if I can, Mr. Chairman. So
Yes, go ahead.
What I heard you say is that, and just correct me if I'm wrong, that parties can't say who can or can't if when it comes to those independents, but parties can't, or that the state can tell the parties that they can do this by primary or they can do this a certain way.
Legal.
Thank you. Matt Mundy for the record. It's a very convoluted area of law because to give you an example, there was a case out of California where they had what's called blanket primaries. And so they threw everyone on the ballot from every single party, irrespective of their party affiliation, to run for whatever office was up for election. So you'd have 3 or 4 parties on the same ballot and everyone had to vote for one of those. That was deemed unconstitutional because that was found to disassociate the party from those that it wanted to associate with for the purposes of nominating its candidate for the general election, if that makes sense. So there are types of primaries that can impede associational rights of a party under the First Amendment. But just by virtue of this bill saying you have to have primaries, in my opinion, I don't see anything in this bill that impacts who the Republican or Democrat or any other party associates with for the purposes of conducting those primaries as they're required under the bill.
Just as a follow-up, Chairman, what I'm hearing you say is you don't see this bill as it stands now as unconstitutional.
Matt Mundy for the record. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any more questions for legal? Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have about 3 questions here, if I can get some clarification on a couple of things. First of all, this bill does not show a physical note. Can legal or someone from legal tell the taxpayers of this great state why it wouldn't have a physical note on it?
Legal, you're recognized, I don't think.
Matt Mundy from Legal. That's not a question I could answer. I'm not an actuary. I can't explain the fiscal note.
Go ahead, sir.
Follow up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in my county in Marshall, we have, I guess, county elections where you don't have to declare where you're Democrat or Republican. They might be 4 people. They put their name in for sheriff. If this bill passes, are these counties going to be required now to declare Republican or Democrat? And will the county have to pay for a primary that they normally don't pay for now?
Legal, you're recognized.
I'm not sure I followed exactly your fact pattern, Representative Warner, but what I would say is if they have conducted on a local level their method of selecting someone for the general by a method other than a primary election during the 2022 and the 2024 election cycle, they are exempted or grandfathered in under this bill.
Representative Warner.
Okay, so in other words, if they don't have to declare Republican or Democrat in a county election, the county would still be able to do that.
Are you? Am I following you that it's a nonpartisan election?
Yes, sir, nonpartisan.
Yeah, there wouldn't be a primary for the nonpartisan election. This doesn't apply to most cities either because most city elections are nonpartisan in the state.
So this does not apply to county elections. Is that what you're saying?
It would not apply to nonpartisan elections because there wouldn't be a primary or a process by selecting a candidate for the general.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Representative Butler.
I don't have a question for legal.
Okay. Anybody else have a question? Representative Powell for legal.
And then Chairman Rudd has a question after me. Is it allowed under state law or could it be allowed for legislation to proceed that let one party do this one way and another party do it another way?
Representative Powell, Matt Mundy for the record. I think that the parties generally can dictate the manner in which they pick their candidates, if they want to do that by primary or caucus. The issue that arose in Tajian was that the party rules for the Republican Party of the state of Connecticut back in 1996 deviated from state law in terms of what they wanted to do and who they wanted to associate with, who they wanted to be able to vote in their elections.
Representative Powell.
But you could set up a framework in state law that would appease that case where basically one party handled something one way and another party handled it differently, correct?
Legal service.
Yeah, Matt Money for the record. I would think so, but I would have to research that. I couldn't give you a definitive answer on the spot like that. But I think that the state statute probably could be crafted in a way that provided alternative forms of nominating general election candidates.
Representative or Chairman Rudd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two questions, and I hadn't really thought about it before today, but number one, let's say that this bill passes and caucuses and conventions to choose candidates are outlawed, and everyone that runs partisan and both parties has to run in a primary. The parties are the only ones that can still call a primary. Otherwise, they run as an independent, I believe. And then also the second question is the parties, even in a primary process, still controls the bona fide definition of who can run in the primary, and they can vet them and have an internal matter of interviewing them and decide who qualifies to be in that primary. Is that correct?
Legal service.
I'm sorry, Chairman Ryan, could you just start with the first question again for me? if you don't
First
mind?
question is say everybody is running in a primary, but still the parties are the only ones that can choose whether there is a primary. They can let them run as an independent and not select a primary. They just said, in other words, if somebody wants to run.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. So give an example, there could be a Republican primary and the Democrats choose not to call one. So their candidates would run as independents.
Correct.
Vice versa. All right. So the party still controls that whether a primary is even called for.
Correct.
All right. The second is the bona fide status currently is controlled by the party who can be a member and who can be a candidate and how many primaries they voted in. They can choose a process and redefine their process on how they choose a candidate, define, interview, and who they even allow to be in the primary based on their bona fide status. Is that correct?
I think that, yes, I think the parties have control over their rules and how they want to define what a bona fide member of the party is.
So based on their process or how they change that process internally, that could determine what candidates can even run in that primary.
It could, and it could also conflict with state law as it pertains to access to the primaries.
Thank you.
Any other questions for legal? Seeing none, we'll go back in session.
Yes.
Represent. Okay. You got questions for the guest, in other words. Okay. All right. I thought you had questions for the sponsor. We'll go back out of session and we will recognize Representative Butler for one of our guests.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for the confusion. Mr. Shelton, first of all, thank you for your service to our country. As a Navy veteran, the very first time I voted as an absentee ballot because I was serving on a Navy destroyer. So I appreciate your service and your being able to vote. So my question is, if this was a caucus and this legislation doesn't pass, how many elections would you not have been able to vote in while you were serving our country?
You're recognized. See how many, I'm on now. 8 overseas deployments. I would have to go back and look at the years and see if they were odd years or even years. I couldn't really give you a good answer to that, but I would like to give you an example. The Williamson County Republican Party, I live in Fairview now. The Williamson County Republican Party held their caucus for who was going to take over the leadership of the party. They held it on, I think, did you say May the 4th? March 4th. The day they held it, there was, I
I had a few of my friends that were planning on coming to that, but the day they held it, there was a bad storm that came. One of my friends had told me, we were actually had emailed one another. He said, I can't be there. He's serving in Kuwait right now, lives in Nolensville. Two of my friends were planning on coming. One of them works for NES Utility Board. The other one works for the Williamson County Highway Department. Neither one of them could attend because they both got called into work because of the storms that came through. They had to keep the power on in Davidson County, and they had to keep the highways cleared in Williamson County. So that was, not only are we talking about service members, we're talking about American citizens losing their ability to cast a ballot for who they think is they want to be their leadership. Every one of y'all, some sitting in here, I voted for. Y'all all have been voted for by people. If you take away the right for any citizen, the opportunity to cast a ballot, what good is our country any longer? I'm sorry, folks, and I know I'm not politically correct when I come to this, Mr. Chairman, or I've never done this before, how I'm supposed to address you.
You're doing fine, sir.
But I'm going to tell you right now, if you take away the rights, God-given rights of an American citizen, what good are we? I hope I answered your question, sir.
You got another
I'm
Representative
just
Butler?
going to brief follow-up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you made your point very well, Mr. Shelton. Shepherd, I apologize. If we don't allow people the right to vote, to elect their representatives or whatever the case may be, whatever their elected officials are, because they are working an emergency or they are serving our country, I think we're doing a great injustice to our citizens, not only in the state of Tennessee, but to America. So thank you for your service again, and thank you for being here. You've done a fantastic job.
Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my question would be for Mr. Morris here. Is there anything would there be anything in the local party's rules that would prohibit for a caucus, maybe sending out an absentee ballot or letting people early vote if they were going to do a caucus? Could the party make their own rules up, the local parties?
Well, first of all, I don't know if I'm going to get the opportunity to clarify what they're mixing an election with a party reorganization. That's two different animals here. And I want to make that perfectly clear. March the 4th was Williamson County's reorganization of their Williamson County Republican Party leadership, which is not an election. Okay? And it may be an election of county party officers, but it's not held by the state or regulated other than by the state executive committee. But we do not have absentee ballots for caucuses. We do not.
Representative Warner for a follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next on the list is Chairman Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think right then we hit what I think is some of the issue that's, we don't know what we're doing. In opposition, I heard Ms. Chenard say board. And then continuing that, I think I heard Mr. Morris say candidate. We're only speaking about the election of people to elected office. We're not talking about party structure in this bill. So do you understand where I'm coming from? When you say board, Ms. Chenard, are you speaking of the local party organization at the local level?
Yes, it's the volunteer board.
And Mr. Morris, when you speak of candidate, you're speaking of those people that are on the ballot to be elected sheriff, trustee.
Yes,
County
I'm speaking
commissioner.
of candidates that would be county commissioners, school board members, county executives or county mayors, people of that nature. When we're
Hundreds of emails that I have received are mixing and matching them, these offices, to where we might want to be. So Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the latitude to have conversation. But I think that we need to really understand that what we're speaking of today in the bill is only about the selection of statewide candidates. Just a minute. Statewide candidates that are selected by statewide parties, being either Republican or Democrat, for local offices of school board, county commission, sheriff, and all those other constitutionally elected offices, in addition to the primaries that are held to select people that are sitting in positions like this, the Senate, the U.S. Congress, the governor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Next on the list is Representative Powell.
Thank you. And Ms. Shepherd, actually, I represent a lot of the Kurdish community. And, you know, they were participating in those elections in Iraq, and now they are large numbers participate in our elections in the United States. But thank you for your service. I guess my question pertains, I've got two questions, but the first one is for somebody can address this, you choose who wants to answer it. But, you know, we had school board elections for a long time, for example, a nonpartisan race. And then this General Assembly chose to make those partisan. And it seems like some of these issues arise from the fact that we have now decided to take what I think should be nonpartisan races. You know, I want our schools to succeed. I don't care if it's a Republican or Democrat. They can do the best job overseeing our schools and holding people accountable at the school level. I mean, isn't part of this problem is this is becoming so partisan? These races and are no longer nonpartisan races. Sure.
What's the protocol? Rick Shepherd, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Shepherd, that's for you.
So, sorry. When I talked about the March 4th, it's my understanding, and I'm sure Representative Reeves could address this, it's my understanding that if this bill doesn't come about, that we could have people picking who we have the right to vote for. And that's my whole thing, because I did talk about the 4 March when the Williamson County GOP had their election, but is that not how a caucus will work? They'll pick a Saturday from 12 to 4. You show up and vote or you don't. And if you're not voted, and the way I understand it with what research I've done, a caucus has no legal bias or no legal oversight whatsoever. Am I right? Well, sorry.
Yeah.
But
We'll have to go back.
It's my understanding that a caucus has no legal oversight. It's that party that manages the whole thing. What is right and fair about that?
Representative
we're
Powell.
opening up corruption, in my opinion. So,
Representative Powell for a follow-up.
I guess just one other thing I want to touch on here is, you know, I've actually worked on a caucus-based election at a presidential level in 2004 in Iowa, which, you know, people say is probably the most important caucus in the United States, if not the world. And so I understand how caucuses work. And Iowa has a pretty unique system for the way they do that. And, you know, there were people that don't like Iowa caucuses. And, you know, my party actually changed the way that we function and the way how we select. But I know the Republican side did not. But are you, I guess, is the position that you are completely against a caucus / position, or, you know, what is your stance on that?
You're recognized, sir.
sorry, sir. I am my position personal. This is Rick Shepherd 101. My position is I am completely against a caucus, simply because you have to, the rules can change, and you don't know, you've got 1,200, 1,500 people making a decision for what you would normally have 22,000 voting in. If, and you only have a certain amount of time. And when you don't have the oversight, there's just so much in a caucus. Everything I've looked at scares me to death. I think we ought to have primaries. Let's say you have an elected official who's a bona fide Republican, does something that the party doesn't like. They go to a caucus. They only have 1,500 people vote, and the caucus just made him a non-bona fide Republican. What you're going to end up having is a whole bunch of independents running. That's the one.
Okay, I have other people on the list that we need to get to, so let me make sure. Representative Martin, is your question for the guest, or do we need to go back in session?
When we first go back in session, if it's
Okay.
possible.
Representative Warner, do you have a question for our guest, or you want to go back? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate your patience, sir. And thank you, sir, for your service to this great country. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. Just a quick question referring back to your testimony. When you said that members of the county were unable to vote or whatnot, you were referring to the reorganization of the Republican Party.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. And it's my understanding that's how a caucus would work.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any objection for us going back in session? I'm sorry, we give you 3 minutes.
I understand, but I want to explain because I am a state elected official. Okay, from the state executive
I'm
committee.
sorry, sir, but we have rules we have to follow here, and I'm sorry, but I can't let you do that. I apologize. Without objection, we'll go back in session. And I can't take the question because I promised Representative Martin he would be the first when we went back in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to the sponsor, I want to make some clarity on this. This is limiting only the August election when it comes to this issue of primaries and caucuses. It's not dealing with a special election that might arise where a caucus would be called at another time. Is that correct?
Representative Reeves.
Thank you for that question, Representative. It applies to all offices for which partisan elections are held at the regular August or November elections.
Okay. Second thing I want to say is I certainly appreciated the testimony about maybe there was 30,000 people that showed up, maybe 4,000 were Democrats. I don't know how you find those exact numbers out, but I would just say that if you went with a caucus and you had, like we did in Hamilton County at our convention, I think we had 317 people, and you had 32,000 people vote in our last primary, and let's just say that 4 or 5 or 6,000 were Democrats, I don't know, you would be totally disenfranchising the other 28,000 Republicans that have voted in a primary. And I'm not for doing that. You know, when our country was founded, you had to go to the courthouse, you had to vote on a certain day, and you had to vote orally. And to my knowledge, there's only one state that still allows oral voting. That's West Virginia. You don't have to, but you can. And people like me couldn't vote at the founding of the country. You wouldn't let me vote because I didn't own any land. I'm a poor person. And I wouldn't be able to vote back then. And then we've marched towards a more perfect union. And we allowed non-landowners to vote. And then we march towards the Civil War, and we think about the right for the black to vote. And then we march towards letting women vote. And then we march towards letting the 18-year-olds vote who were serving our countries overseas. Why in the world would we want to step back when we're marching towards this more perfect union and inclusion and not disenfranchising people like this fine gentleman? And I appreciate your testimony and your service. And so I'm very much in support of your bill, and I appreciate you, Representative Reeves, for bringing this today.
Next on our list is Representative Dixie.
Again, I didn't have a question. It probably was Representative Chisholm, but while I'm here, I'll
We
just
got your name wrote down. You looked at us.
calling people. But I do have a question for you, for the sponsor. Oh, we're back in session?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So does this bill strip away power from the county parties like the Williamson County Republican Party.
Representative Reeves.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I get mistaken for David Hawk all the time. So I understand. I understand that. I
Jesse's the
appreciate that.
man. Nobody compares to Jesse. He's the man. So, there you go.
I appreciate that question. Local parties still have control of their internal matters, but when nominating candidates for public office, election integrity and voter access to the polls must come first. And that's what this bill says and does.
Let's follow.
Representative Dixie.
So since we've kind of made our school boards partisan, would this impact the school board races as well?
Representative Reeves.
My understanding is that local parties determine whether their school board is partisan or not, and they have that option. If it's a nonpartisan school board, no, it would not affect that. If it is a partisan school board, yes, those elections would have to be conducted. The party nomination elections would have to be conducted by a primary.
Representative Leatherwood.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've talked about this bill. I've asked you this question, but just to make it clear and get it out there. Interestingly enough, I've been chosen as the Republican nominee for different positions by 3 different methods because of different circumstances. As I understand it, this bill would not impact special circumstances resulting in different methods being used. So in other words, for example, if there are time constraints, if a Republican has been put on the ballot, but he dies within a certain time frame, there's just not time to hold another primary. So given special circumstances, would this bill impact alternative methods?
Representative Reeves.
Thank you for that question. No, this bill does not touch TCA code 2-13204, which does provide for those kind of special circumstance elections. And it does nothing to that section of the code.
Okay, I think I seen her hand go up. Representative Carringer, did you have something? Okay. All right. Representative Powell.
So my question is, and I understand some of these arguments we heard about parties. My issue sometimes with some of these primaries and limiting some of these choices are there's a different party platform for the national party. There's different, beliefs sometimes in your local state or your state party. And then even the local party has different views. And I hear this about some of these arguments about people crossed over and voted in these primaries. But people's views also change. I don't, I wish people were Democrats, they'd stay Democrats for life. I wish people were Republicans, they'd stay Republicans for life sometimes, but people change, right? And people are independent. And so I think people have the ability to move and vote in primaries because it's based upon your belief system at that moment. The other, I guess, if you could speak to that, if someone is voting in a primary and there's these allegations that they maybe had been voting in a different primary. I don't know how they got those numbers. There's a lot of different data that you can say that, right? It could have been 2 out of the 3 last elections, but people change, they move parties. I know there's a lot of independents in Tennessee, and they tend to shift their views one way or another, depending on how they feel the government's working for them. If you could speak to that and why, you think primaries help.
Representative Reeves, you're recognized.
I appreciate that question, Representative. I think that's somewhat a separate issue, although I do understand the point that you're making. People are in different categories of people. There is another bill currently working through the 114th General Assembly that actually addresses party registration and how parties can deal with that. But I will make one point that kind of piggybacks off of what you said. And the notion that we've got crossover voting. If you can determine who that is. I will say that in Williamson County, we had 1,555 people participate in this county reorganization. That's the highest amount of participation we've seen in the state ever for a party reorg. The last sheriff's race had 29,000 people voting. So if you had one Democrat, that had, was a bona fide Republican based on their primary history, they would have 20 times more impact with their vote in that caucus than they would in a primary. And so I just wanted to note that because I thought it was an interesting argument when it was stated. But directly to your question, I would say that's a different subject. This simply prescribes the format of party nomination.
Representative Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move previous question.
Previous question's been called. Go ahead.
I was on the list back before we went out of session to speak to the.
And we come back to you.
You didn't come back to me, to the sponsor.
I have the names on the list. You're marked out. We did address you.
Mr. Chairman, I never addressed the sponsor of the bill, and I was on the list. I know I was first or second.
Representative Powers, will you rescind your motion?
Yes, I will.
You're recognized, Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sponsor, what brings the purpose of this bill? Have we seen any problems across the state where the caucuses have been a problem?
You're recognized, Mr. Reeves.
Well, thank you very much, Representative Warner. This actually has been a subject that has been in front of this body for many years. Bumped into a former SEC member in the Republican Party in the hallway earlier at lunch, and she told me that this is something that had been people have been trying to fix for a long, long time. I know that there is current discussion around trying to disenfranchise voters in various counties across the state. And, what happens when we propose a bill is we see a potential problem and something that needs to get fixed, and we propose it in a bill.
Representative Martin Warner for a follow-up.
Thank you there, Mr. Chairman. I've been down here 5 years, and I haven't, this is the first time that this has been brought forth. I'm a firm believer that we ought to leave it up to the locals to decide how they run their elections. This has not been a problem. This is not a problem looking for a solution. This is a solution looking for a problem. And I guess my next question to you is, why do you think there's not a physical note on this bill?
Representative Reeves, you're recognized.
Thank you. Because this bill actually codifies what currently exists in all of our counties right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Representative Powers, you are recognized.
Question on the bill.
Question's been called on the bill. We got a second. We're ready to vote on House Bill 855. Moving out to calendar and rules. All those in favor, please vote aye on the board. Those opposed, no. Madam Clerk, you will open the board for voting. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you will close the board and announce the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 ayes, 2 nays.
Bill moves on to calendar and rules. House Joint Resolution 180, item 19 by Representative Reeves. Proper motion and second. Representative Reeves, I do see that we have an amendment on the bill. Will you please give us your drafting code?
Well, actually, sir, I would like to move this to the first calendar of next year as well.
Without objection, House Joint Resolution 180 will be rolled to the first calendar of next year.
Thank you, Chair and Committee.
Okay, I don't see anybody else in the audience. So we do have objection. Is there 3 objections? We will voice vote on the adjournment motion. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it.